Hi everyone, this is Sharon. Today I am bringing you my July design team project for Raindrop Lila. And what I decided to do for my project is to make several journal cards using one of her latest kits. It's the Charlotte Instant Photos, these 4 photos. And you know I love the colors in these nice rich dark colors. I think these photos are just beautiful. So that was my starting point, and I wanted to do some image transfers with those. And so that's what I did for my first card, and that's the one. I made 3 up ahead of time, and we'll be making one today on camera. And the one that we're doing today will have an image transfer. So what I did was I took the paper image, I printed it out on paper, transferred it to this clear shelf lining material. It comes in a roll. It's sticky on one side and has a matte clear finish on the top side. And I just love using that type of material for image transfers. And if you want to know how I go about that technique, I will link a tutorial that I did sometime back down in the description, so you can see how I did that. So on this one, I created that, and then I layered it up with some script, and I did that on all of these. And what I did was just pull a number of images from some of Lydia's kits. So for this first particular one with the bird, I used this letter, and this is from her French Vintage Documents kit, and you can see that I've got that layered under this image. And with the image transfers, they're very translucent and clear, so you can kind of see through them in all the lighter spots from the image. And so I layered that, and then I used these library catalog cards. The one we're doing today, this is what it looks like before you do any layering on it. And I've got a supply of those. So I used that as my base for the card and just glued those 2 layers onto it. And I left some of the printing come through. I like to see that as well. And then I always like to embellish my things, so I added a little bit of wool fabric and a button onto this one. And then I backed all of these cards with some images from Lydia's Pretty Neutrals collection. It's just a really beautiful, soft, neutral collection, and I like the way those look on the back. So if you don't want to mess with an image transfer, and believe me, it's a really simple process, but if you don't want to do that, another option is to wax your papers. So here I took this image. I'm losing my voice already. Okay, so that's this one right here. And I just added some beeswax to the top, or to that image. And then I did a double layer. So I also sandwiched it with another invoice image, this one from the Hannah Journals bundle. It's got a little bit of a bluish tint to it. So I actually waxed those 2 together, and they adhered together. And then this isn't quite as translucent as this. It's a little more opaque, this technique. It's kind of ethereal. You can see through it, but not quite as well. So you can see some of the script that came through there. And then I put those 2 waxed layers, I glued them onto this catalog card. Again, leaving some of the printing come through. And then I just added a little piece of muslin that I stamped. And then again, added one of those images from the Pretty Neutrals collection on the back. And then lastly, if you don't want to mess with transfers, you don't want to mess with wax, and just leave it like it is and print it on paper. So here is another one of the photo images, and I just layered that with some embossed paper, and then another scripty image, this one, which is from her Charlotte tall page layout kit. And so I've got those. This is not a library catalog card. This is a flash card, a math flash card. It's a little bit larger than the others, but I just wanted to do something different. And so on the top of this one, I just use this die cut frame to kind of showcase the flower on the image. And then here's the image I have on the back. This one's really light, so you can actually see a little bit of the 12 divided by 3 math problem on the back, but I don't really mind that. So my intention originally was to just have a bunch of individual journal cards, but since these already had pre-cut holes, I think when we're all done today, I would like to take a ribbon and just tie these all together and make a little booklet. So I will set those aside. And then for the one that I'm going to be making today, I just pulled some things for that. So I've got my library card. Here's my image transfer onto that shelf lining paper. You can see it's a little sticky on the back, and that's where I stick on my paper image before I transfer it. And then it's got a nice matte, you know, there's a little shine to it, but once you glue it down, you don't really see that. So this image is this one from the collection. So I have that piece, and I'm going to layer it with this image, which is from the Neutral Ephemera kit. And then we'll layer those onto this card. I also pulled this black embossed cardstock. I thought that would look really striking underneath these two, but I'm not sure I'm going to have enough real estate on here to layer all these. I still want to leave some of this printing coming through, and I don't know if I'll have enough room for all these 3 layers, but we'll try. And then I just pulled a couple of other things that I think I want to use for embellishing on the top. So my first step is going to be gluing this transfer onto this piece of paper. So I'm just going to use my glue stick. I like using a glue stick to get full coverage from edge to edge on a lot of the things that I glue. But because this shelf liner paper is kind of like a plastic, I'm also going to add a bit of art glitter glue around the edge just to make sure that it stays down. So I'm just going to run a little bit around the outside on this. Art glitter glue for me is a no-fail. It sticks to pretty much everything. So let's just put this on here. So with this image transfer, as I mentioned, you can really see through it nicely in the light white spots. And that's where it's nice using images that have a lot of white space or just heavy contrast. Now this has some really dark and some really light, so you can see in some spots and not the other. I'm just going to take my little credit card here and kind of burnish that down all over the place, so that it's got a nice adhesion to the other layer. The other thing you could do that I use quite a bit is a brayer and just kind of burnish it down that way as well. Okay, so now we are going to cut this so that it fits our card. And I think I'm going to cut it left and right so it lines up, and then kind of tear on the top and the bottom edge. So I'll cut it approximately and then trim it down later. So I think somewhere around there. And then we want to see some of the background come through, but I don't want to tear off two of my script either. That's where I'm really in a dilemma all the time with collaging, because I want to see everything. Okay, so actually I changed my mind. I think I'm going to tear down this side too. I just don't like all that plain paper on that side. So let's get crazy and start ripping. I do want to see some of this here. And then maybe rip this something like this. Let's see. I want a little bit more off. I don't know if I'm going to be able to rip this plasticky stuff, so I might have to kind of cut that down a little bit. And then take a little bit more off of that piece. I think something like that, maybe. Now let's see about this black embossed paper. I'm also debating, I don't really like this edge on there either. I'm going to take most of that off. It's a process. All right, I like that, and I think I would be happy with that. But I'm just going to try this to see if maybe we want a little bit of that black edge. And then tear down here. Can you tell I don't usually do tutorials? I very much sit in my silence or listen to music or watch other videos, so I'm not used to gabbing while I work. Okay, so it would be something like that, but I'm not really liking it, so I think we'll just scrap that idea. I'm just going to glue this on. Now, I think I like it over here, but then I have to deal with that hole. I think it'll be okay. We'll cut that hole out since we're attaching it to our booklet. So I'm going to glue this whole piece down. So I'm going to go back and just glue this whole back side. Can you hear my cardinals singing outside? Okay, so let's get this down. I think something like that looks nice. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to cover my back and then come back and embellish the front. So let's get, this is the piece that I chose for my background. So I'm just going to glue this, stick this down, and then cut around it. And we'll see where we go with punching out our hole on the side, because it will be covered up with this page or this piece from the back. Okay, so stick that on there. Again, I always like to make sure everything's really burnished down well and sticking. It's a little crooked, but I think that's pretty good. So I usually use my brayer as well as some type of a card and just make sure it's all down nice. Okay, so there we've got our paper peeking through on the hole, but we're going to cut that out, so I think it'll be okay. So now I'm just going to trim around. Do a little cutting in the corners to make it look a little more worn. I just like snipping just an ever so slight amount off, so you can't even tell looking at it, oh, that's snipped. It's just gives it a little bit more of, just takes that really sharp peaked edge off. Okay, and I'm liking that. This side, the edges look pretty new to me, so I'm going to just take a little bit of ink and just take that off the edges a little bit. Okay, now you could certainly embellish the back by adding labels and things, But I'm leaving mine plain, I think, for my booklet. They could be used for writing then. I know a lot of people think I have no writing room in my journals, but for me, I like interest on my writing surface. So I would totally write across this whole thing, even though there's a pattern on there. Okay, so we've got all that adhered down. So for my embellishment, I pulled this little piece of cloth. It's got some unruly hair. I thought I would just stick that there. And then I also stamped one of my Sampool stamps onto this piece of muslin. And I thought we could stick that on there like that. So let's get those glued on. And I think I will just use my art glitter glue for these. Works quite well with cloth that is not too thick. What I found, like on the wool piece that I adhered, you either have to use a lot of this glue to get it to stick. But I tend to then go to Fabri-Tac, which is a little goopier and works really good for some thick, heavy fabrics. Okay, and then get this one glued on. And there we have a really nice layered tag with a little embellishment. Now I'm going to punch this hole all the way through, and then maybe just add a little bit of ink on there. And let's try to put our little booklet together. So I'm going to bring back my other three. And now we all have holes in all of these. And I pulled this old piece of sari trim that has some polka dots on it. I think that'll work okay. And we'll just tie these all up. This would just be a fun little happy mail or something to send off to someone. Let's try a bow in there. See if I tied it too tight. Okay, let us cut this off. I think that makes a cute little booklet that could be used to write in if you want, or add some pictures, or however you'd like to use it. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial today. As I mentioned, I did a couple of techniques in here. This one, which is the transfer, and I will again link that tutorial down below in the description. And then this waxing technique, I also have a tutorial on that. I will link that video as well. But I wanted to mention the fact that some people have asked for additional tutorials on those techniques. So over the next several weeks, I think I will be doing some additional tutorials on those techniques just to kind of update my methods and show you what I'm doing and use some different papers. So stay tuned for those. And the other thing I wanted to show you is for my August project for Lidia, I am making my first ever flip-flop journal. I'm always late to the party, believe me. So I've been looking at all the different methods for creating flip-flop journals, and I'm a simple girl and I didn't want to deal with all the envelope flaps and double layers and little bits and pieces of paper sticking out all over. So I took myself a legal manila folder and I just folded it into a W or an M, however you want to look at it. And that will set me up for 3 signatures, which is what I wanted in my journal. And so I've already got my pages put together. I'm using her Pretty Neutrals collection primarily. So I will be working that journal in the month of August and hopefully have a video out for you probably toward the end of August. So thank you very much for coming along with me today. I really appreciate it. I hope you got a little bit of inspiration for this Monday morning. And until next time, bye-bye.